Hi everyone, and thanks for being with me. It's good to know that we're live on the Tony Tonkin Show. And I'll just have to turn that down for a second because I'm getting my own voice back to me, which hasn't been very helpful. But I've got Avery in a second. We'll have a conversation about all things political, and particularly things that are political in Australia, which is and I just need to say that some of this is in relation to a post or a couple of posts I've done on, and Avery and I are going to talk about today, and that is about values. So what are the values of the Liberal Party, the Labor Party? Are their values the same? Do they have different beliefs though? So basically one of the things I'm questioning at the moment is what's different between both the Labor Party and the Liberal Party? And I'm confused about it because when you hear them talk about it, you think they're talking about the same thing, but they're not. They're clearly talking about something totally different. So let me know what you think around all of that, because we're going to talk about division and where divisions start. And I made a post which I put this ticker up on the other day, which is Gaza is always the starting point, because that's where we seem to emphasise some of these divisions. So I'm going to welcome on board my friend, my mate, my buddy, Avery. Hey, mate, how's it going?
Oh, I'd like to say that everything is wonderful, but I've got a chest infection, and it's called RSV. I think that's what I've got anyway. It's if it is, I had exactly the same symptoms around about this time last year. Not a flu, but RSV, respiratory syncytial virus. It means it's untreatable. All you can do is treat the symptoms, and the major thing you do is cough like crazy.
So you're going to offer an apology for any coughing that takes place during this feed. Right.
I apologise right now for any coughing that happens.
And I just need to let you know that we're both live on Facebook and YouTube. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please remember to subscribe to my channel, ring the bell for the notifications, do what you need to do. And also make some comments so I can pick them up and we can, Avery and I can respond to them. That would be really helpful also. So, Avery, this notion around values, I'm extremely confused about what these values that people talk about are. Have you got an idea as to whether the values are the same, or from each party, or whether you believe that they may differ?
Well, I think that all of the parties, regardless of what they are, no matter how much I might disagree with them or agree with them, they've all got the same basic aim, which is to do what they think is best for Australia and its people. But when it comes to the actual values, I value empathy and compassion and things like that. I think one of the reasons that Dutton lost so spectacularly was because of the way they spoke about things being woke, as if there's something wrong with being woke, about the way they were talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and they refused to use those words. They just used the three letters. They didn't say what was wrong with diversity, what was wrong with equality, what was wrong with inclusiveness. They didn't say any of that. But they whined and bitched about DEI and woke. And I think that's a major difference between the major parties.
Do you think so? I get confused. I'm going to be frank. I get confused about that because I don't know whether or not the things that they talk about are beliefs, and this is getting complicated now, or whether they're actually values. So can we start with, what do you think are the common values, the things that parties hold that I guess they share across the spectrum?
Well, that's why I start with saying that a common value they have is not equity, doing all they can to promote Australia.
All right, I accept that. Yep, good one.
Yeah. But,
so you're saying an overarching value is that they all wish to do something that's going to benefit the community.
Australia.
I like that. That's good. So where do they differ then?
well in their approach to how they're going to do it. You know, the Liberals, as I said in the election campaign, they spoke a lot against wokeness and DEI. And the Labour Party don't speak against wokeness and DEI. So wokeness is about empathy and compassion and caring for the well-being of others. Um, what is wrong with that? Right? What is wrong with having a diverse workforce, a diverse population? What's wrong with equity in the population or inclusiveness
Well,
in the population?
I guess my point is that there is an issue in relation to who it is that you think deserves that equity. So, in some
Everybody.
cases, if you're an immigrant, for example, on one side of politics, you don't deserve the fairness and the equity that you do if you're
That's the
sitting
right.
on the other side of
That's the
politics, because one side of politics basically says we don't give a shit about you and your rights, and well, in the United States in particular, it's about the rule of law, but here in Australia less so. But we kind of see this division though, don't we? Which breaks those notions that you're just talking about. It kind of breaks them up in a way.
Yeah. The people that are talking against it are those on the right wing of politics. Right? Those on the left wing of politics don't say that immigrants uh, shouldn't be cared for, shouldn't be treated well or treated with respect or anything like that. It's those on the right wing of politics that tend to do that. And as I said, the Dutton campaign was all about that.
So
You know, the,
how does that fit with that notion that you presented about every everybody wanting the better outcomes for the community, given that perhaps one
I
side
didn't say for
doesn't want the same sort of outcomes as the other side. They see a difference there, and then that kind of
I didn't
creates
say
the
for the
division.
community. I didn't say for the community. Yeah, I said the country. Right,
Oh, the
the
country isn't a
country,
community?
not necessarily the community could be all the Jewish citizens, Jewish people that live in Melbourne. Right, that's a community. It could be
Yep.
all of the indigenous people living in Alice Springs. That's a community, right? Um, but what I specifically said the country because that that really is about everybody. But when you start talking about uh, Palestinians the way that Susan Lee's done, right?
Mm.
Um, that is divisive, right? That's othering them, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Um, and it's excluding them. It's not include. And she talks about the Palestinians in Gaza. What about the Palestinians that live here, right? She's
Yeah.
in demeaning Gaza. She's demeaning the guys, the ones that live here.
Yeah.
That
Exactly.
that's
So,
dividing the country.
so is that dividing? So does that divide the community and therefore divides the country? So some people who are Palestinians may see themselves as othered because they're not viewed as the same as other people in the community. And so,
Yeah.
how is that? How does that fit with your notion that both parties or all parties are the same because they want the best for the community? Well, in
Well,
actual
it's
fact,
what I
they
said.
don't, do they? They're saying that one part of the community is different to another.
One part of the country is one group of the people in the country is different from the others. It's the immigrants that are the different ones, and yet,
Mm.
as I said to Gerard Rennick, a senator from Queensland,
Oh,
every single
Your buddy, Senator
non-Indigenous
Rennick.
person.
Yeah.
Say, I said to Senator Rennick that every non-Indigenous person that lives in this country today is either an immigrant or a descendant of immigrants.
Mm.
Right. So, um, but the thing is that the right wing seem to be attacking the immigrant population, and from what it appears to be, it's the non-white immigrant population a lot.
Mm.
Palestinians aren't white, right? How many
Well,
times do
well,
just
apparently,
in my neighbourhood,
but
I hear a lot of criticism by right-wing politicians about the Somali migrants that we've got living here,
yeah,
and they are really dark-skinned.
yeah. Your point being,
Racism.
yeah, right,
Why are they
okay.
why are they picking
So,
on the
but
brown?
it's not just racism either, is it? Because you can be You can be Muslim, Palestinian. Well, you can be Palestinian and Muslim and probably have a different colour skin. Or you can be Muslim and as white as you and I, can't
Well,
you?
yeah, yeah. I didn't mention religion. I
But
just said
religion certainly
Palestinian.
plays a part, doesn't it?
Well, yeah,
Because
yeah.
they
But I'm
become
saying,
other just like everybody else.
yeah. No, I say I didn't mention religion. I said Palestinian. I said Somali. I didn't mention whether they're Muslims or Christians or Buddhists or anything like that.
Yeah,
That's irrelevant.
I guess what I'm
Well,
saying is
it's
that they can
relevant in some
be
way.
also not just Palestinians, but it could be religions. People who belong to a certain religion can be othered as well.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And people's sexual orientation,
Yep,
right? The
spot
fact that
on.
they're transgender,
So
right?
this notion around making the country better is fractured by these versions of division, which can be
Yeah.
around race, religion, sexual orientation,
Yeah.
social economics background.
Yeah.
Can be about education. It can be around all those things, can't it? That can actually, at the end of the day, it seems to me, divide us. And the thing, I'll just let Avery recover from his
I'm with you.
coughing bout. But it's also, what I'm confused about, and I'll be frank with this, is about this notion that both sides have the same values. And they tend to want to articulate it. And I hear the Liberal Party in particular now articulating where they sit around certain values. Like the Liberal Party, and they'll say that they want the same thing as it appears to me that the Labor Party want. But then there are these differences that Avery and I are just discussing. And so, how so I guess what I'm really saying is, does that match their values? Is this really, are their values is their behaviour and their belief system, I guess, around some of this fracturing,
Contradict.
I guess, their values? I guess that's my point. Avery, you got thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that some of their behaviours contradict what they say are their values. So when I said that they were looking for the best outcomes for the country, the Liberal Party approach is to look at business, and I mean, obviously, if a business isn't prosperous, it's not going to be employing people and things like that. The country gets poorer. So businesses need to be looked after, right? But it shouldn't be at the expense of the people at the lower socio-economic end of the spectrum. The Dutton approach seems to be, well, it's not his approach anymore, but the right-wing approach seems to be the old Ronald Reagan trickle down. If we pour some into the cup, it'll eventually overflow and trickle down to everybody else, ignoring what the sort of approach that the Labour Party takes, which is a rising tide floats all boats. Lifts all of them. Right, so the Liberal Party, Nationals, and that lot, they seem to think that if we spend the money at the top end of society, it'll promote everything for everybody else. Where what really happens when you like Trump's talking about giving a big tax cut, right? If you do that to the upper end of society, they don't go out and spend it. They go, well, they might, but they're not going to be spending it on. They buy a new mansion, right? They buy a new luxury car. They buy themselves an airplane or whatever, right? You give it to the lower socio-economic end of the spectrum. They've got no choice but to spend that money. That pumps it straight back into the economy, which helps to enrich the entire country, and it'll eventually get to those top people anyway, because they're the ones that own the businesses.
Yeah. So there is this diversion between what one side of politics plans to do, so their behaviour, like looking after the rich and wealthy, for example, ignoring the poor and those people that are vulnerable in our society, so they'll ignore them, and they'll focus on their investors and the people that matter to them, the Gina Reinhardts of this world. They'll focus on them, and then they'll focus on ideologies such as being anti-climate change as well.
Yeah.
which is not benefiting anybody.
My
So,
friend Gerard Rennick again.
so, so isn't this true that they look for different ideologies that and try to sell those ideologies to us? That it is an endeavour to try and convince us that that is the difference that sits between them and other parties.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's exactly what they're doing. And uh, you know, Dutton saw how well Trump did and started adopting Trump-like policies. Started talking, as I said earlier, about uh, anti-DEI, anti-woke, promoting, doing things to help the top end of town. Right? When I say saying about giving the lower economic end of the socio-economic end of the spectrum, a lot of people think middle class. I think what they should be doing is boosting the things that get literally the benefits that get paid literally to the lowest end of society. Because the middle class, yeah, great, give them a bit more money, but the people that really need it are the ones down at the bottom, the ones on $23,000 a year or whatever.
Yeah,
Like, lowest price to rent a house per week in Adelaide right now is over $700. Right? Who can
which
afford
is
that?
like looking at New South Wales standards,
Yeah,
basically, which is
yeah.
really sad.
So if you, why have we got a big homeless problem? Because we're rewarding the top end of town, not looking after the people that really need looking after.
Yeah. So
Right?
I wanted to pivot a little bit to
Yeah.
the election of Susan Ley. Do you have an idea as to whether or not this is a good thing for the Liberal Party or not? What do you think?
It's a good thing in that at long last they've got a female leading the party. Right? Whether she's the best female to lead the party, I'm not so convinced. Uh, One of the reasons I'm not so convinced is, was it 2011 when she went to Palestine?
Yep.
Um, and I can't remember whether she went there being pro-Palestinian and came back pro-Israel, or the other way around. Right? But she
She,
shifted position.
I think she came back. My my understanding of that is that she came back pro-Palestinian, and then something happened between then and now that has made her pro-IDF.
Do they have a lot of Jewish people living in the constituencies that she's a member for?
I'm not too sure.
Because that could be a reason to get their vote. You know, if there's
She's in a
10,000,
country. She's in a semi-country rural area, I think.
all right,
Probably
I
more
don't know. I
rural
don't know what,
than. Sorry, more
yeah,
country than rural.
yeah. I don't know
So,
what
or
her.
urban, I mean.
Yeah, I don't know what. I'm just looking to see if I can see it because I've got a thing about her on screen right now. Uh,
So I guess the important thing to understand here is that she's changed,
yeah, she
and
was brought
that
in
at
in
the end of her
Nigeria.
discussion or her press conference the other day,
Yeah,
she did um, sort of she wanted desperately to pivot to this idea, which was divisive, which was about you know Hamas, Gaza, what Israel is doing or the IDF are doing, and
yeah,
the and how that impacts anti-Semitism. This is
yeah,
where she wanted to go with this, and this is
yeah,
divisive. And I
yeah,
could understand why, woman, do you want to go there? Like, what's she waited? This really frustrates me. I said this on a couple of videos today, but I was really frustrated, Avery, that she was doing so well throughout this press conference. You'd finish the press conference and you'd think, beautiful, well done, Susan, with a double S. You've done really, really well. Let's leave it at that. Move on. Work out what you need to do with the Liberal Party. But oh no, for the whole of this press conference, she was waiting for this moment and she had to insert it even though it wasn't necessary.
yeah. This is that clip that you showed me earlier on.
Yeah,
Yeah, do you
which
want to
I'm not
show it
going to
now?
show again because last time I
Oh,
did it,
okay.
I stuffed up my audio, so I won't do that.
Oh, okay.
But
Yeah.
if people can watch my other video, the video I did 2 or 3 videos ago.
Right.
that'll highlight just that. But it's crazy
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah. That's the one where she was saying about the way Albanese was uh, doing things. His approach to anti-Semitism was wrong, or something like that, and it was like promoting anti-Semitism, which he's not doing at all.
No, and it's
But the thing
the
I
thing.
remember saying to you when you showed me that clip before, that she said this is what he's doing. He's taking these steps which promote anti-Semitism. Didn't say what they were.
No,
He's taking these steps which are anti-Palestinian. Didn't say, or pro-Palestinian. Didn't say what they were.
and
Right.
I tell you what's my most frustrating point here, Avery, is that why is it that we can't differentiate between what IDF have done and the bombing and creating shit in Gaza and killing over 50,000 people, mostly innocent people, women and children? And some of the statements from the right wing in the IDF about their declaration that they wanted to wipe out Palestinians from Gaza. So why don't we call that stuff out? As I know you disagree with me on this, that's why I raise it. Why don't we Why don't we call it a genocide? Because if one particular group of people are declaring that they want to wipe out another in that country, now I know,
Yeah.
and maybe if they could wipe all Palestinians off the face of this earth, they probably would, if they could, but they can't. At the moment, they need to focus on Gaza. So I'm going to let you speak to
Yeah.
that because I know you have a different view, and that's what
Well,
my channel's about, offering different views. So go
yeah.
for it.
Yeah. Now, my view is just the use of the word genocide. I utterly condemn the killing of 50,000 plus Palestinians by the Israeli Defense Forces. What you summed it up. Why, without saying it, what my objection is. Genocide is uh, a decision made to kill everybody in an ethnic group. So if they want to kill all the Palestinians, which would be genocide, they've got to go to Gaza, and they've got to go to West Bank, they've got to go to wherever the Palestinians happen to live here in Australia. Go to Wisconsin, where there's lots of Palestinians. Go to London, where there's lots of Palestinians, and kill all that lot. They're not doing that. They're just killing the
So hold
they're
on,
after.
hold on.
Hang on. They're after the Hamas and killing the um, uh, innocent Palestinian men, women, and children. I utterly condemn that. Now, you want to talk about um, a genocide or a desire to wipe out an entire population, all of
Yeah.
them, everywhere? Hamas. That is their policy to kill all the Jews. It's the river to the sea policy, as they call it, means from the Jordan River all the way to the Mediterranean and kill every Jew in there. And then we're going to go and start like Adolf Hitler wanted to do in the 1930s or 1940s and kill all the Jews in Europe and
No,
kill
I
all the
think
Jews.
I'm not going to argue that point with you, but I did hear someone say that originally from the river to the sea was a Jewish declaration in about 1947. So I'm
The
not going to argue that because I don't know enough about it, but I'm sure if you had Moidi Hussein on, he would argue with you vehemently around that particular issue.
I'm sure he would, and if you know what I mean, I've got the receipts. I've got stuff on my computer right now of who said what.
Yeah.
And the first person that saved from the river to the sea was a Palestinian leader.
I'm going to argue then, so I'm going to put this to you though. So are you suggesting then that what Hitler did in relation to the Jewish community and getting rid of 6 million of them, and that includes Polish people, I think, but in that 6 million, that is not genocide?
I didn't say that. He set out with the intent. Well,
He did, because he didn't eradicate Jewish
hang on,
people
hang on.
from the
He did
world.
not.
He just
He did not.
eradicated them from areas over which he had control.
He didn't. He did not set out to kill all the Jews. He did not say in 1933 when Mein Kampf was published in the 1920s. He didn't say my intent is to kill all the Jews. His original intention was just to get them out of Europe. So
Yeah,
I'm
but
gonna-
aren't we
I'm gonna-
entitled to call that a genocide though?
Yeah,
because the mass killing of a
he wanted
specific group
he
of
wanted to
people.
kill he wanted to kill every Jew in Europe. And he eventually came to he eventually agreed with a proposal made by Reinhard Heydrich at the Wannsee conference in 1941 that the best way to do it was just to kill him. It
Yeah.
wasn't
So
his
what?
proposal, and I'm not defending him. He was evil, right? And he should have said no, we're not going to do that, but he didn't. He just agreed with it, right?
So what? I just want to be clear about this.
And
So what
they were
happened in
going.
Rwanda back in the mid 90s?
That was the
That
Houthis
was a
wanting to
genocide,
kill
though,
all.
wasn't it?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
that was one group warring against the other to exterminate
yeah.
the other
To
group, right?
kill all of them.
Yeah.
Hitler, the Nazi intent that came from Reinhard Heydrich was to kill all the Jews in Europe, and if we take over other places, we're going to do it there as well.
Yeah.
Right? Um, but as I say, if you're going to, you're calling what's happening in Gaza a genocide. Okay, call it a genocide. I'm not going to stop
Yeah.
you doing that. No, but the original thing came from the river to the sea, the
Yeah.
Palestinians in 1947 about wiping Israel from the face of the earth and
Yeah.
all the Jews with it.
Yeah.
Now, there's another thing. Going back off that, Susan Lee.
Yep. Go for it.
Another thing about her, about her being the leader of the Liberal Party. I said it's a good thing. It's long overdue that they had a female leading the party. In the 2000s, when she was a minister under when Abbott was prime minister, she bought herself a $750,000, $800,000 house up in the Gold Coast, and then over a couple of years had 27 taxpayer-funded trips to go to stay, living in that house. And I'm doing government business sort of thing. She's saying. At the same time, she was criticising Tony Burke for taking his family up to Alice Springs. The hypocrisy. We don't need we've got enough hypocrites in government as it is. We don't need a hypocrite leading the one of the major parties.
One of
So
the one of the most fascinating aspects of all of this is that I was watching a clip from Sherry Markson, and Sherry was this is a woman that I would not trust with anything, particularly information, even though she says that she's a journalist. Anyway, she's having a go at Susan with a double S. Because of the same sorts of things that you're at. So here we have the right wing now having a go at Susan because of these hypocrisies and because of some of the things that she said in the past around Palestinians. So I just think that it's on for young and old, and it's going to be fun, Avery, just to sit back and watch it.
yeah, absolutely. If she had a criminal conviction, I'd create a Facebook page about her as well. But she doesn't. So,
or maybe just include it in the one you've already got.
well, on my felon in chief page, I've put up dozens and dozens of memes about Australian politicians, comparing them to the American politicians. Like Peter Dutton and mainly Peter Dutton, but also several others like Palmer.
Yeah.
But
I don't know who this guy is on our YouTube channel. Fats Rabbits. It sounds like he's a friend of yours, Avery. He's saying hello, Avery, and hello, humans. And I don't know what he's been taking, but I don't know how helpful it is. Avery is a Skippy the bush kangaroo. I think this guy's on something. So with I won't put him. I won't put him up on the screen because that's embarrassing for him.
Yeah, I didn't see it pop up. Hey, Avery. But, is that on YouTube?
Yeah, on YouTube.
Yeah.
So I just want to say, where does all of this go then, Avery? Given that the Labor Party won by a landslide.
Yeah.
Well, we'd see it as a landslide, just in the number of seats. It isn't a landslide in terms of the percentage of the primary vote, but it is a landslide under our system. And where does this go, do you think, in terms of the Labor government not becoming arrogant, and perhaps the Labor government finding ways to put forward the progressive agenda without stepping on too many toes along the way. Do you think that's possible?
I it is possible, but they're going to have to tread carefully to do it. The thing that's going to undo them, possibly, is the factional things that they got going. Where you got the people, where you and I are over on towards the far left, and you got people who claim to be in the centre somewhere, and those factions. I mean, Mark Dreyfus, I thought was a great politician, kicked out of cabinet because one of the factions didn't like him. That I think could cause problems for the Labour Party. I do think that because of the absolute hammering, I was going to use another term there, but the absolute hammering that the coalition got, I do think we're looking at 6 more years of a Labour government. I think that maybe towards the end of term 2, it's actually term 3, that there might be moves to replace Albanese, because he'll be getting on for 70 or 72, something like that by then. I think that Susan Lee, as leader of the Liberal Party, is going to be there for a little while. But when I say a little while,
there are some movements around to suggest that she's not going to last more than a couple of weeks. So.
That's why I said when I said a little while, I meant a little while.
A little while.
A little while. I don't mean she's going to be here in 2 years' time. I'm not convinced she's going to be there in 2 months' time.
Yeah.
Because of her history with things like lying about what she was using taxpayer dollars for in 2017 or whenever it was.
I think I don't want to focus on this too much, but I think when she gets to trying to convince people on these divisive issues, you wonder what lesson they possibly did not learn from the last election. You know, let's not try and be Donald Light. Let's try and be different. You know, they've got plenty of issues that they could argue. They could even try and sell your favourite issue, which is the uranium. You know,
No, you're wrong. Building. You're wrong about that. You're wrong about that as well, Tony. My favourite isn't uranium. Right?
Your favourite is nuclear fission.
Yeah, but using thorium, not uranium.
All right, let's not go down there. That's a bit complicated It's complicated for me. You know, a bit complicated for others. Hey, Avery, I've just got our friend Fats Rabbits has put this up, which I'll bring up for you to have a look at. Which is Mr. Tony. Mr. Nice to know we get called initially by our first name. It says, how's about releasing the Royal Commission report on child abuse? Which report in the hell are you talking about?
That would be
been released.
Yeah, that would be the institutional one, I imagine.
Which one?
That was definitely released. The Royal Commission into Institutional Child Abuse that found that the Catholic Church were responsible for 38% of all child abuse cases in Australia, or something like that.
But that's been released.
Yeah, definitely.
And
maybe in the state that Fats Rabbits lives in, they've got their own Royal Commission going on now. I don't know. Where is he?
So he's got another point up here. I don't want to spend too much
this
on
side of the rabbit-proof fence or the other side of it?
Beg pardon?
I said, this guy, Fats Rabbits, is he this side of the rabbit-proof fence or the other side of it?
I've got no idea if he understands where the rabbit-proof fence is at all. But anyway, he says here, Tony and Avery, why not petition the court to release the Wood Royal Commission report into child abuse? How far back are you going, buddy? The Wood Royal Commission.
That's the police service. The Wood Royal Commission was officially known as the Royal Commission into the New South Wales Police Service. Yeah. It was a 1995 to 1997 inquiry that investigated corruption within the NSW Police Service.
And so, I think it's fair to say, mate, there's been over 40 different reports done around this whole issue. Which part of this report do you think is going to change anything? That's my issue.
Yeah, well, the answer to that is nothing.
No.
Nyland hardly changed anything here in SA. That royal commission he's talking about, one of the major focus was on corruption, but then there was a secondary focus on child abuse investigations. Uh, the inquiry, it was set out to focus on corruption, but it expanded to include child abuse investigation and to to include allegations of child abuse and the police's role in protecting individuals accused of abusing children.
Now, I've been dealing with this problem for decades, and I know that no matter how hard you push this, the system will never change. Now, and Avery's in charge of the Child Protection Party, and I suggest if you've got any issues in relation to this, that they find a way to contact you through CPP, Avery. Would you agree with that?
He can write to me at secretary@childprotection.party.
That's it.
And I've got the Fats Rabbits or whatever he calls himself or she calls herself said why can't they release it? I've got it on my screen right now.
So there is an argument here that Fats is putting up. It is sealed because judges are still serving.
It's not
I don't know which part of the serving. Now let's not get into conspiracy theories either in relation to any of this, because that's just unhelpful.
Yeah, I say I've got it on my screen right now.
There you go. Maybe invite Fats over to look at your screen, mate, so that he can see it for himself.
Well, he can write to me at secretary@childprotection.party, and I'll email him the link.
So how about if you do that, Fats? He's commenting on the things that we say. That's fine. So, and the other thing I just want to say before we finish off, Avery, is that if you'd like to come on board and have a conversation with Avery and I, let us know, because we'd be more than happy to have a debate if that's what you like. It can be about anything. On this show, it can be about anything. It can be about politics, whatever. If you want to come on and have a chat to me on my normal show, which isn't this one, happy to do that as well. So let us know. Make contact through the comment section if you like, and let us know what you would like to do, because we'd like to be able to accommodate your voice in these conversations. So, Avery, any parting words?
I say no. Have you got an email address you could provide for them?
I have. It's odd about that, isn't it? I'll put it in. I'll tell you what. I'll put it in the comments section.
Yeah.
Below.
The reason for that is that the email will go to whatever tool you happen to use, Gmail, Hotmail, whatever it happens to be. And you've got hundreds of videos on here. You might not see the comment. If somebody puts a comment in there, yeah, I'd like to take part and discuss this topic with you.
And it's a fair comment, because I'm now getting about 300, 400 comments for some emails, for some posts, singular posts alone. Yeah. There's a lot to cover.
Getting the comments helps the algorithm in promoting your page.
It does. So they say.
Yeah, but if somebody wants, say, for this specific purpose, if you want to take part in a show, have a discussion with me, a debate with me, or join you, or somebody wants to speak to you and me, then use this email link.
And I just want to say to Fads Rabbits, he says, just found this channel, surprised it was Oz Political Chat. There's many other things I do apart from this live feed, which we do try to do Thursdays. Plenty of other things we do, Fats. So look at my other channels, my other videos. And Avery, they can access, you've got this other stuff happening for you. Do you want to just quickly talk about that?
Well, I've got two things going. One is a very small YouTube channel, which I really got to get off my backside and do some more videos. That's called Perspectives with Avery. That's mainly political, but I also talk about religion and other social issues. The other thing I've got is a Facebook page, which since January the 20th, I call it Felon in Chief. Since January the 20th, has grown from 40 followers to 4,700 followers. And in the past 28 days, I've had over 1 million views on the stuff I've been putting on there.
And you might need to tell us, Avery, what sort of stuff you're talking about putting on Felon and Chief, so that people know that this is the place they can go to have a laugh.
If you want to, if you want to see stuff that is mainly about American politics, but there's some things in there that are where I've targeted Australian politicians, because I got about 12% of my followers on that page are from Australia. About 86% are from the United States, and a lot of what I do is just mocking Trump and Dutton and others like that. I do have some things where I put up some posts where to try and promote a discussion. Then MAGAs come in, and I've got a fair few MAGAs that follow it as well, and they come in and they think they're being very erudite when they say, "Oh, you're a loser," you know, and that's it. They're in and out with crap like that.
I'll get used to that, Avery. I get that all the time.
Yeah.
I just get over it.
I have got it monetized, right? But because I've been a naughty boy in the past, they refused to pay it to me, so I've just got the money that it makes diverted to a charity.
Well done. Any final words before we go?
Go on.
What?
No. What I was just saying about, go and have a look at my Perspectives channel.
Cool.
Perspectives with Avery, or youtube.com/@Perspectives with Avery.
Right, and thanks Avery for today. I'm sorry everybody, we're a little bit later than normal, but we've tried to make it about Thursdays about 2:00 Australian Central Standard Time. That's on 3:00. Sorry, 3:00. Not even I know. What do I know? So look, thanks everybody for being with us. In the meantime, we'd just like to say, remember to subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for further notifications, have a conversation with us in the comment section, and let us know if you'd like to come online direct. You need a camera and a decent microphone, obviously, to do all that, and we can have a conversation with you, Avery, I, and you. So take care, everybody. Look after yourselves, and more importantly, be safe.